Many have asked if everything you're saying about Chavez and Maduro is true, where are all these stories of suffering coming from? Well, it has to do with perspective. We have two groups of Venezuelans that are telling completely different stories, and believe it or not, both stories are true. See, Chavez and Maduro attacked the wealthy, the super elitists, the ones that have destroyed our country, and leveled the playing field and took the money out of their pockets and put it in the hands of the people. They built housing and they educated people and they got rid of illiteracy, and that had a financial cost to people that were not used to having to pay those costs. So for them, absolutely, when they come out and say, oh, Chavismo's been terrible and Maduro's been terrible, for them, from their perspective, absolutely it has been. But the vast majority of Venezuelans have benefited from Chavismo. Now, we have the same schism in our country. If we were to ever take up arms and overthrow Washington, D.C., and attempt to govern ourselves as 50 independent nations, as I have suggested, oh, there would be lots of suffering. In fact, after we came to this new world and we threw off the chains of the English, nobody likes to talk about the years after that. It was very, very difficult, and we had unending supplies of streams full of fish and wood and lumber to be chopped down and farmland as far as the eye could see. That doesn't exist in this particular instance. So, yeah, this revolution in Venezuela has caused problems and has caused grief. It just depends on who you are and what your perspective is. But it seems like the U.S. is dead set now on fixing this militarily. Regardless of what Congress says about not giving any authorization for the use of military force, our leadership is just going to do it anyway. They'll find a way around it. And the Cubans have picked up some very interesting activity in their airspace, so I think it's all but a done deal. What I would like to do today is speak to that wealthy group of Venezuelans that live in Miami who have petitioned our government and have tried to advocate for the use of military force to get their money back. This guy is going to lead you to ruin. You are under the mistaken impression that this deal with the devil that you're making isn't going to have a cost on the other end. So you believe that we are going to go down there simply out of the goodness of our heart, and in the name of freedom and democracy and free market capitalism, we're going to restore you to the glory days of the 90s when 80% of your country was living on less than $2 a day. February 23rd. That's the day. Less than 9 days, your puppet guy says he's going to attempt to force this, giant air quotes here, humanitarian aid across the border. This man is not going to allow that. He is the man the people of Venezuela elected as president in an election. You had your opportunity to stand in that election. Had the U.S. gone down and observed, as they were invited to, and had your candidate run, and had he lost, and if you could provide some evidence that the election was rigged based on that, then there might be a leg for you to stand on. But since you didn't participate and the U.S. didn't go down, they can't say the election was fraudulent or not. That's why, of course, you had to come out 90 days before the election even occurred and call it fraudulent then, 3 months before it even occurred. Now, let me be real clear as a former serviceman. If one drop of American blood spills in your country because of your actions, you might as well take the word Venezuelan out of your lexicon, because you will be a 53rd protectorate of Washington, D.C. for the rest of your existence. That will be the price. of losing one American in this nonsense. One soldier, one airman, one Marine, one sailor loses their life in this. You can forget about ever calling yourself a Venezuelan again. What is now yours will be ours ad infinitum. That is the cost of one. We did this once in the name of freedom and democracy and all this kind of stuff, and we paid an incredibly heavy price for it. We're not going to do it again. Not without some assurances. See, this is what you don't get. Rich, wealthy Venezuelan. There are going to be costs on the other end of this. We are the most powerful military on the planet, and we're that way for a reason. I have tried to warn that the Venezuelans are not to be taken lightly, the people down there, and they will make this a bloodbath. But if it comes right down to it, it's going to be a decision about how much blood are we willing to spill, not about whether we can win or whether we cannot win. We could sit offshore and completely decimate Caracas, every city that you have, and burn the place to the ground and just come in and pick up the pieces and rebuild it in Washington, D.C.'s model if we wanted to. That's really not an issue. But mark my words, I just want you to know, rich, wealthy Venezuelan, what the cost is going to be for your continued support of this random guy named Juan. Here's the first assurance that you are going to give Washington, D.C. They're not going to want to ever have to do this again. So they're going to make sure that your young men don't ever have the ability to think as men again. So this will be now put into your education system. That being a man is bad and being a girl is good. So there won't be any idea of revolution again, no masculinity, no sense of independence. You will be a protectorate of Washington, D.C. You will not be Venezuelans anymore. These will be your new social leaders. These will be your heroes. This is what your entire society will look like within 5 to 10 years. This will be the max level of masculinity allowed in your society. You teach this now, forget about it. That's over. You even speak of this in public, you will be vilified, you will more than likely lose your job, and probably have to leave the country. Because there's going to be a standard, and it's not going to include this. This is the price of making the deal with Washington, D.C. And I make that delineation very clearly. This has nothing to do with the people of the United States of America. This is you, rich, wealthy Venezuelans, making a deal with Washington, D.C. in their control of our military. They will start young. They will make absolutely sure that you never, ever, ever have anybody like Nicolas Maduro or Hugo Chavez that has the balls or the temerity to stand up and say enough and be willing to fight for it. That's never going to happen again. Oh, and by the way, if you're used to those wonderful markets you have of fresh goods, yeah, you can kiss that goodbye too. See all this in this picture? Goodbye. You're not going to, this is what you're going to get. There's not going to be any local stores where you can go get fresh produce or you can get non-GMO goods. That's gone. You're going to have nothing but Walmarts. And you're going to eat what the U.S. sends you. And that's going to be your only choice. If you're caught doing something so vile as standing up a farmer's market, yeah, you're going to be labeled a Chavista and going down the road to socialism again. And of course, you'll be thrown in prison. And we have absolutely no problem with that. We'll build all sorts of nice prisons down there. Because that's what we do here. While you have the ability to, perhaps crack open the Bible and read the story of someone else in history that sold their birthright for a meal. Sold their entire inheritance for one bowl of stew, pottage. This is, gosh darn it, I keep using the wrong picture. I'm so sorry. This guy will be who you answer to. Elliot Abrams. He's going to be our special envoy to Venezuela. He will be the beginning and the ending of all of your disputes. If you have a problem with anything the U.S. does, suck it up and deal with it. There will be no petitioning of the United States government for redress on behalf of the people of Venezuela after we go down there and install our pro-U.S. leadership. You will be a protectorate. You will not be a country anymore. Ask Argentina how well that's working out for them. So just be very clear what your costs are. Because our costs are going to be way, way, way too high for this bullshit. Wealthy Venezuelan in Miami, I want you to stare long and hard at this picture. Because this is what you are asking the people of the United States of America to trade for your bowl of pottage. This is what we're going to have to give up so that you can have your swimming pools and you can have your wealthy lifestyle. There will be a price, and you will pay it. Like, share, subscribe.